ready.
Ready?
So if you want to start with your
Okay.
introduction.
Okay. My name is Clarence Jones. I am the Community Engagement Director for Southside Community Health Services. And we are an organization that's been working with the city of Minneapolis on a variety of different projects over the past 10, 12 years. One of the projects that we worked on was a multicultural storytelling toolkit that was developed with other communities of color around the issue of talking around how do we look at food and how do we work collectively in order to make our communities healthier. What we did when we started this project was we started with asking three primary questions. One was, how do you describe a good meal?
Hold on. We're going to use the first part. That's good.
Okay.
So you said we started with the toolkit.
Right.
Around health and all that.
Right.
So we'll just break there.
Okay.
And then we'll say, since the toolkit,
Okay.
the work has evolved into the Voice Project.
Okay. Okay.
And then you can,
I can start talking about this food.
right.
Okay.
So
Ready?
you can just say, since this.
Okay.
Since the toolkit.
Okay. Are you ready? Well, since the toolkit, this project has evolved into the Voice Project. And what Voice stands for is valuing our individual cultures through engagement. It is a project around food, around how do we use food. It's around,
Okay.
okay.
So we had the acronym a little bit. So that was good though.
Oh,
So just say, since that.
oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, ready?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can start from the
all right,
top.
okay.
Since
Pardon me?
the toolkit. Then.
Oh yeah, since the toolkit was developed, we were engaged in another project which was called the Voice Project, which was valuing our individual cultures through engagement. It was around food in our various communities and the food size, how do we have access to food, those kinds of things. And so we got together and we convened the various communities, asking them some pretty basic kinds of questions. I want to read them to you. One was, how do you describe a good meal? And then how does a good meal make you feel? The second question was, does your size impact how you feel about yourself? The third one was, how have your cultural traditions around food evolved or changed over time? And these were important questions to ask for our communities as we talked about the issues of food. Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to.
Ready? Okay. So we use the Voice Project to spark awareness, then to bring communities together, and then to use the toolkit or the stories as a tool for creating knowledge around food and how food is utilized in our various communities.
So we're not going to mention the toolkit. Can you just
Okay.
say we use stories as a tool, stories in general.
Okay.
Stories as a tool to share knowledge and to learn.
Okay. We use stories as a tool for sharing knowledge and gaining access to other community projects. That's not what I want to say. But anyway, okay.
We can try that one more time.
So,
We use stories to share knowledge and to learn from one another.
okay. So we use stories as a tool for sharing knowledge and learning from one another.
Perfect. So now you can say some of the themes
Okay.
that have evolved out of the Voice Project.
Mm-hmm. And I want to be sure that I'm doing the right ones. Access, beliefs. Okay, those things.
So we're going to say themes that evolved out of the Voice Project include eating behaviors,
Okay.
habits, and meal times are really important to communities of color.
Okay.
And you can take this.
Okay.
These-
Some of the themes that came out of the Voice Project are eating behaviors and habits. How do we eat at mealtime? And then that mealtime are important to communities of color. Okay.
And then there was another one.
Access to food is very
That's
important.
so important.
Yeah,
For what
yeah.
promoted that. And talk from your heart about this one.
Yeah.
This is what was really big.
Yep.
And there's a lot of dialogue about this.
Okay. So one of the major themes of all the things that we talked about, which was access to food. And for many people, that was a very touching, very sensitive kind of issue. People were really concerned that they didn't have access to fresh fruit, didn't have access to foods, and they realized that it was because of that lack of access that there were many diseases and illnesses within our community. And so we're concerned about our kids. You know, how do we make sure that our kids have access to good foods also?
And then if you can say, this was so critical in the African American community, but we're learning now this is critical across the board.
Okay. And it was a very critical issue in the African American community, as well as when we talked to other communities of color, we found out it was a very important issue in theirs as well.
Okay, that's great. So you went through, you repeated the inquiry questions.
Mm-hmm.
You talked, let me see the themes. Talked a little bit about the themes.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the, so we talked about access to food, eating behaviors. If you could talk a little bit about, you talked a little bit about it already, the medical themes, like the challenges, but not only the challenges, maybe because of you, where you come, the resources to addressing some of the medical challenges or experiences that people talked about, like, I know Mr. Robinson talked about
Prostate cancer. Right.
So some of the resources that are in Minneapolis and bringing people together is a way to share that information so people can have better access to healthcare. And that's your field, so just talk about it freely in terms of, because it came up a lot in this conversation.
Okay. Okay. You know, as a result of this, of these focus groups, what we found out was that people are very interested in this topic because they understand the difference, or they understand the connection between food and access to care and their health. And part of what we discovered was that many people are very, very, they want to, oh boy, I lost my thought. But anyway, they want to engage in this topic in a way that really can bring health to the communities. Many of the people in our group talked about their own personal experiences as a result of not eating the right kinds of food and the kinds of medical difficulties that arose as a result of a lifelong habit of bad eating. And so for us to be able to get together and to talk about how important this is, but also for us to be able to get together and find out that there are other people that are interested in this kind of topic was very important. It was also extremely interesting to us to find out that regardless of where people were at on the social economic scale, they were able to talk very intelligently about this topic. They were able to talk about how they wanted to deal with this topic. They were talking about the kinds of actions that was needed to address these kinds of health issues in our community. And so what we found is that there is a great interest in it. We have to bring people together to convene around the topic and kind of direct the conversation. But I do believe that with a concerted effort, the various communities of color can see an increase in their health status as well as a decrease in health disparities.
Is there anything else you want to add from your heart or anything you think that we're missing that maybe he can help?
Oh, there she go. I thought she was gone. That's Karen. It really helped me as a healthcare professional to really kind of get a real understanding of how people really felt about food, the connection to health, the connection to access, the connection to just how we wanted to interface with other community members. It also was a place for an honest dialogue around this conversation. And when people are asked an honest question and given a chance to respond to it in a very authentic way, then we start to see behavioral changes. I know for myself that out of that particular exchange, I stopped drinking pop. You know, when I found out, you know, the effect of pop and the lack of value that it has for myself, I really started making my own behavioral changes.
Okay, last piece. I feel like the real end product and the goal of this is for there to be some more systems change or some big macro level sort of listen to what we have to say and now let's work together for an action, whether it's a policy recommendation, the way a rollout of a new initiative or a new strategy, but keep talking to us, keep engaging with us, let us share our story so that we can create change, something along those lines.
Okay. I think one of the greatest changes for me was the fact that because of this topic, it made me more aware of how people could be engaged in this subject. As a result of that, we have started some work with young fathers. We've started some work with some young mothers. We're working in community projects around healthy eating. When we are having organizational meetings, we recently had a conference with a church group. We suggested food changes for their picnic. So we have all these opportunities that have come out and have emerged as a result of my own personal understanding about the issue. And I also know that many people want to change the systems around it. They want to be more publicly engaged in the public dialogue and conversation around healthier foods. And so what we're finding is that because we're giving people an entree point to this topic, people are saying they want to engage their politicians, they want to engage the community in making changes.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thanks, Claire.
Okay.
That was great.
Thank you. All right.
Then answer one of the questions, a good meal. Or if you want to go into also saying, my name's Thornton, I help facilitate the conversation. One of the questions I asked was, how do you describe a good meal? To me, a good meal would be this. But then talk about something as a black man in your community, how food relates to you, any story you have about a memory of what you ate, a traditional or cultural meal that you might have had. And does anything resonate with you?
Mhm.
Like, do you have so tell me an idea of like a story related to food that you'd be willing to share.
Well, traditional holiday meals with, I come from a big family. We would gather at my grandparents' house. And there would always be a turkey and a ham and maybe a roast and a bunch of potatoes and every kind of vegetable that you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always black-eyed peas on New Year's Eve. Potato salad.
This is what you remember. Do you do this now?
Yeah, we still do it.
So then speak about the value of carrying on traditions and sharing meals. Because I think that's something, the reason why we're doing this, there's a lot of assumptions about communities of color. And people
Mhm.
think that institutions, organizations, you look at the health data like, oh, they don't share meals together. They don't have any, family values. There's all this social determinants to health. But we want to showcase that. Give us a space to have these conversations, and we'll share with you all the wisdom and all the knowledge that we have. We'll share our cultural traditions with you, and then that can inform you. So when you roll out the next policy or program, traditionally or culturally, how we really engage with each other, and so that can help us get to the next level. So maybe we like getting together and having big meals, but we need to make sure that there's some healthy food on the table with
Yes.
those big meals. So something along those lines would help us, and I think we heard a lot of that in those conversations. Even I think Mr. Robinson talked about, he bought a recipe book, a blank recipe book.
Yes.
He tried to get recipes from like
His grandmother.
and then
And then have her fill it in and pass it on through the
So
generations.
anything like
That was excellent.
that's a great idea. Or there was a lot of talk about churches playing a role,
Mhm.
churches having community gardens, or churches hosting farmers markets, and so how these community assets can help us meet the needs so that communities can be healthier, or people can have better, options when it comes to food choices. So those are the types of things. I'm just asking people to kind of like share maybe a little bit of their story, and then sprinkle some more knowledge on us about the in-depth kind of cultural traditions and values when it
Okay.
comes to food. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. So we can start with your introduction.
All right.
And then once you give your name and your involvement in the Voice Project, and you can say you helped facilitate the dialogue, and then you can go into either answering a good meal or sharing a story about traditions and things that have evolved. It's up to you how you want to frame it, but we want to do the introduction first.
Okay.
And you're going to talk to me.
All right. I'm Thornton T.J. Jones. I was one of the panelists on the African American Men Voice conversation regarding food in our community. And some of the things that we talked about, there was a great panel of men that were pretty knowledgeable about healthy eating. And some of the things we talked about, well, I asked the question, what is a good meal? And the men responded. Some said, well, steak, potatoes, and a green vegetable. Others talked about salads and fruits, nuts, and things like that. Drinking a lot of water. And then we talked about some of the family traditions around food. and what that looked like to them when they were coming up and what it looks like in their family now. And many of them, you know, the family sat down and had a meal. You know, there was meat and potatoes, vegetables, fruit for desserts, and things like that. There was always a pitcher of milk on the table. And then they talked about now how a lot of times everybody eats on the run and they don't sit down, and there's no healthy dialogue about what happened, you know, during my day, and any positive encouragement from the elders in the family. And there was really no discussion about healthy food other than clean your plate. And a lot of times that's not healthy. But the guys talked a lot about what they had learned in, say, the last 10 or 15 years in their adulthood about healthy eating, and the differences from when they were coming up as kids as opposed to what they do now. And a lot of them are eating very healthy. And I know these guys and have known them for a good little while. So I've seen the transition in weight loss and healthy skin and things like that.
Okay, great. So if you could just share a little bit about the value of coming together, of people coming together, having a space to share this information, and then a story that came out of it, whether it's your own story you just told me about, you know, a little bit about how family meals used to be and then it's changed a little bit, but a story of your own, whether it's like, what do you do? Do you go to farmers markets? Where do you shop? Where do you meet with other folks? Is your church involved in some healthy food sort of activities? Is it closely related to your occupation? Have you changed anything over time since these conversations kind of first started? So if you want to share a little bit about that in terms of, you know, creating a space for people to come together and talk is really valuable. From that, I am, or I've learned, and then you can fill in the blank.
Okay. All right. I think being a part of this panel discussion was very helpful to me and a lot of the other guys. And as I said earlier, a lot of them have really changed the way they eat, their eating habits and their patterns, what they eat, when they eat, how much water they drink. And one of the guys I've known for 15 years and didn't know that he had prostate cancer, and what a difference it made in his life. And another gentleman just wanted to lose weight and had done some research, and he's attached to, I can't remember the name of the group, but it's a healthy eating group that goes out and talks to the community about healthy eating. And I know through it, I've learned to eat more salads and more fruits instead of snacking on chips and soda pop. You know, I'll grab a bottle of water or an apple or an orange, a banana, a bunch of grapes. I like to freeze my grapes and nibble on them through the day. And I've learned to like carrots and broccoli and a lot of other things that when I was younger, I didn't want anything to do with. But now I enjoy them and make them a part of my meal. I think this conversation in our community is long overdue. You know, we've got the First Lady talking about obesity and healthy activities, and I think it was either this morning or yesterday, someone told me she was on a TV show doing double dutch with a bunch of kids, and she outjumped them. But she's active and she supports healthy eating and the elimination of obesity. And when we look around our community, we see so many people who are overweight and obese. And it saddens me that, you know, my grandparents had a farm up in Anoka. And on the weekend, we would go to the farm and pick our vegetables and feed the pigs and the chickens and things like that. But they also had a garden in their backyard So when we weren't up at the farm, we still had healthy eating right at home.
So in your group is really interesting because the commissioner was there. And so if you want to speak a little bit about the value of government or institutions to be in a space to hear us talk, so that's a way, creating a space where we can share information is really valuable. And it's important that our message or our voice is heard by decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those, because you guys had a really politically kind of charged discussion, and the commissioner was there, and she kind of just sat there and took her notes.
She was taking copious notes.
So if you want to make a comment about the value of her being there, and then the maybe so she can hear, because the voices need to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so creating a space where the voice can be heard and the community can inform decision makers on how to best meet the community's needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Okay.
key. That's why we're really doing all this.
Sure. Okay. Well, in our session, there was a lady, I believe she was a commissioner of health, or she was from the state, I believe, the city.
Okay. Within our, and you can just say, it's important, and don't call her out, I guess, but you can say it's important for decision makers
Mm-hmm.
within this city to hear our voice. And
Okay.
then you can do your commentary.
Okay. Well, I think it's very important that we gather in groups and have these conversations and have political figures and people of influence to be able to hear these conversations and know what's going on within the community and whatever areas they serve, so that they can share information. They dispense information on all types of different things, but healthy eating makes for a healthy community. And when we gather together in groups, food brings us together for a lot of conversations. A lot of times we have meetings. I can remember on my last job, when we would have meetings in the morning, we would have grits and eggs with cheese and sausage and ham and great big sweet rolls and donuts and things like that. And in a year, I gained 20 pounds. And then we got into the mindset that we were working at a health center, and so it behooved us to change the diet and deliver food that was more healthy for us. And so we went to the fruits and the vegetables, and everybody appreciated it, and they really didn't miss the heavy, greasy, non-healthy foods. And so we maintained that in the groups that we did throughout the day and in the evening. And when we gathered with a healthy mind, with the intention of serving healthy food. And sometimes there would be sidebar conversations. We might meet for something totally different, but somehow the topic of the food would come up, and they would say how much they appreciated the healthier food rather than the filling, non-healthy food, and what a difference it made.
That's a great story. That's
Okay.
a great story because it captures institutional change, behavior change, and people coming together around food. That's
Okay.
a great story.
All right.
So, okay, the last request is I want you to say the community voice should inform there's a saying in South Africa, nothing to us without us, and that's like kind of their HIV program slogan, like don't do anything to us without us, like involve us in this process. So if you can speak to that, the value of coming together, being heard, and our voice informing decisions, initiatives, and policies that impact us.
Okay.
I really want to get something powerful, like
Okay.
a statement like that to put in this video.
Okay. Well, you know, I really appreciate the fact that we had these discussions, and my hope is that they continue and expand. You know, I coordinated a listening project on my last job a few years ago, and we talked about everything except healthy eating. But our children are being raised on fast food and other things, and we need to educate each other on these healthy foods so that our children aren't obese, so that we aren't obese, and that we treat food more respectfully, because the way we eat is the way we are. What do they say? You are what you eat. And if you eat bad, you are bad. You know, and I know people that overeat and eat the wrong things, and they have headaches, and they have all kind of other maladies, I think that's the right word. And it's because they're not eating right. And when they learn to eat right, those problems go away, they feel better, and they act better. And they encourage other people to eat better. So it's a snowball effect. And hopefully we can get, you know, politicians and institutions and things like that to carry this message farther and faster.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. We shared stories about food through the Voice Project.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your introduction. My name's Karen. What?
Karen Willens Mogaji.
Bogachi.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use whichever.
Okay.
I don't have you as Bogachi, but
Okay.
you can say your whole name. And then you can
Okay.
say, I was involved in the Voice Project. In the women's group, we shared stories around food. And then you can say, I also work at, and then tell them a little bit about this and
Okay.
the role of healthy foods, and then we can go into your story.
The women's focus group. Okay.
Don't say focus group though. Say we shared stories or we had a dialogue around food.
But who were we? The women who?
The voice.
The
women's it
voice
was a
group.
voice project, and it was a women's dialogue. We shared stories.
Okay.
And so you'll be talking to Maria. You don't
Okay.
have to look at us. I know we're beautiful people too, but
Yes. Yes.
but you'll just be talking to her.
Okay. So I should look at her and not at the
Yeah,
cameras.
don't look at the cameras.
Okay.
Look at Maria.
So you're gonna say, my name's Karen. I was a participant in the Voice Project, the women's dialogue, where we shared stories about food, size, and culture.
Okay.
You can say that.
Okay.
And then I'll talk you through each piece. We'll do the editing later.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you ready now? Okay. Hello, my name is Karen Willens Mogaji, and I shared in the women's, what was it
You can
again?
say, I'm a participant in the Voice Project.
I'm a participant in the Voice
Workshop,
Project.
the whole thing, the whole.
Okay.
So you'll say your name.
Can I see that
Go
pen?
ahead. Go ahead. I'm a
Voice.
participant in the Voice Project, the women's dialogue, where we shared stories about food.
Okay. Okay. I participated in the Voice Project. And the women's what?
The women's dialogue, where we shared stories. We're just trying not to use the term focus group because this technically isn't a focus group, and we had to go through a whole bunch of approval to get it deemed
Where we
something
share,
else.
yeah, where we share stories about eating healthy.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, eat, because I can't keep on asking you this, and I'm kind of nervous. I ain't never done
You're
this.
gonna be nervous the first couple minutes, and then it's just
Here you
gonna be
go.
like you're
Oh, that
talking
was your
to
pen. Okay. Hi, my name is Karen Willens Mogaji, and I participated in the Voice Project for the Women's Dialogue Group, where we shared views about healthy eating. And I also work here at the Center for Changing Lives Cafe as one of the managers. And I'm having a great time learning about food on a daily basis, because if you just don't know something, then you just don't know. You will continue to eat unhealthy. Fortunately enough, I was in this group and learned a lot of good ideas on how to eat healthier, and I'm trying my best to stick to that. So it's really working out. I mean, if you become conscious of what you're doing, you can stop doing it if it's not good for you.
Perfect.
Okay. Now don't ask me to say that all over
No,
again.
no, no. You did very well.
Okay.
And so when I showed you the questions, was there a really compelling story that you wanted to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially this one here. Wow. Was how have cultural traditions around food evolved or changed over time? Well,
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
So you're gonna say, during this conversation, I shared a story about how cultural traditions have changed over time.
Okay.
The
Okay.
story is, and then go on to it.
So during this time that we shared together, we had conversations on how cultural traditions around food evolved or changed around food. Over time. And the story that I came up with was a very interesting one because I remember being a little girl in my grandma's kitchen. And if it's one thing she cooked with, it was ham hocks and fatback. But it was so good at the time that when I grew up, I liked it so much that when I grew up, I brought more fatback than I should have and put it in my greens and my beans, and they taste extremely good. One thing that I remember about that story is that because there was no adults around, I'm now the adult, there was no adults around to tell me, that ain't good, that ain't healthy. And all I was looking at is the fact that it was really, really good. Until one day, I had put some ham hocks and some fatback in some greens that I had cooked. Totally delicious. But about an hour to 2 hours later, maybe, I got this headache. And I was walking around holding my head, and it seemed like, for some reason, the more I thought about what I had eaten, the worse the headache became. I had to go and lay down for a couple hours to get myself together. And then when I told people about this excruciating headache that I had, they asked me, well, what did you eat? You know, I'm like, well, what that got to do with anything? But indeed, it did have a lot to do with it when I told people that I had put ham hocks and fatback in my greens. And they're like, you were setting yourself up for a stroke, girl. And my eyes got this big, and I'm thinking, really? You know, at the time, I didn't know that that type of food was detrimental to your health. I didn't know that it could raise your blood pressure, and then you can get a stroke from it. But then as I thought back, my grandmother died from high blood pressure. She was a diabetic, and she had a stroke. And she continued to cook like this to the day she passed. And I'm like, wow. I didn't see what I was doing at that time, but I was setting myself up just the way she set herself up, because no one educated her as well. And she thought that this was a particular way to cook because that's the only way she knew how to cook.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good. So, from what you,
That was good, by the way.
yeah, what you said from that is the importance of sharing knowledge
Yeah.
and learning. So exchanging knowledge and sharing wisdoms with other people, with family members, so people can modify or tweak how they cook their food.
Exactly.
And we talked a little bit about that here. So do you have any other solutions or recommendations?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do. So from that story, I began to kind of get scared and worried about what I was doing to myself, you know, because I was doing it to me because I was not educated enough. Well, in this group that I went to, this women's group with the dialogue, I learned from certain people in that group that, which I had heard a lot over the years, that you can season your greens with other meat, smoked turkey, smoked sweet meat, smoked neck bones, you know. And I was really hesitant on doing it, really reluctant on doing it, but I done it one day. And to be honest with you, I couldn't really tell the difference except for the texture of the meat in my mouth was a lot crunchier than that ham hock. There was a, you know, when you chew it, it's kind of mushy and you could taste all the grease that's going in your body. So from that point on, I started just cooking healthier with the smoked turkey. Taste is the same. I know I'm getting a healthier meal, and I don't get sleepy like that afterwards anymore. No more headaches, okay? So it was really a wake-up call for me, and I'm glad because now I can pass that education on to my children that also like to cook and cook with greens and ham hocks. No more ham hocks, you know, just no more. You know, we're gonna cut that completely out because we was educated here. And I'm very appreciative because I could have kept going, not knowing that I'm setting myself up for failure, you know. So there you go.
So talk a little bit about what you're talking about in soul food. And so I don't think people
The only day that the slaves had to rest was on a Sunday. and the only thing they had to be joyful about is what they were going to eat. Unfortunately, they were given the meat that the slave masters no longer wanted, like the ham hock and like the fatback. So since that's all they had to find a way to make this taste good so they can enjoy it and still have hope about coming up out of slavery one day. And so they got together and cooked all this good soul food, ham hocks, greens, string beans, black-eyed peas, and then following that would usually be like a peach cobbler, banana pudding. You know, there was also a lot of fat and butter and stuff, but this is the way they existed to just hold on to hope that slavery would one day end. And so getting together on a Sunday evening soul food brought joy to them, you know.
What does it mean for you now when you have a soul food Sunday?
Which is every Sunday. To me, I kind of take, well, of course, we're no longer enslaved. So I just kind of look at it as like, this is a great time to get the family together after church to talk about what's going on, what happened last week, what's going to happen this week, gets everyone around the table. And because that's all we have is the food and each other and the love that the food brings around the table, that's what we celebrate, the fact that we're all here. Because, you know, today or tomorrow is not promised to us. So if you could just have that joy with your family where everything on the table is extremely good and you can have as much of it as you want to and wash it down with some cherry Kool-Aid, you'd be all right.
So that's your story about soul food.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I am still working on changing a lot of things because sugar is also something I'm trying to get rid of. So we're gonna learn to go with Crystal Light rather than the Kool-Aid and eliminate some of that sugar. Instead of peach cobbler or banana pudding, we're going with banana bread, you know. Instead of cornbread, we just wipe the cornbread out because, you know, it's just made with so much stuff that we just don't need. So I'm learning, and it's a different, it's kind of, okay, it's kind of different from any other way that I've ever eaten, but because I'm getting educated, when you know better, you do better. And that's what I'm trying to do. And if I don't teach my family how to do better, I'm going to end up in that vicious circle like my grandmother taught me. I didn't have a clue. And then I kind of felt dumb. Here I am, a grown woman, and people are still teaching me how to cook. See, I don't want to feel like that. I don't want them to feel like that. So I'm beginning to teach them better qualities of ways of cooking so they can live healthier lives, you know.
So what was the last thing you wanted to say around physical activity?
Physical activity is you know what, it is imperative that you do physical activity because you can diet all day alone, you can diet all day, every day. But if you don't put some exercises with that, the weight is gonna come off slower and then you're gonna get depressed because it's coming off so slow. But if you get up and do some exercise, walk about 5 hours a day, drink plenty of water, the results will be unbelievable, trust that. You know, but you got to get them exercises in. You just got to. You got to move. If you don't move it, you lose it. You know, we ain't trying to lose nothing now. So, there you go.
Okay. And then the last thing I want you to say is, if you could talk about how you want, why are you sharing this, and who do you want to hear this story?
I'm sharing this because just like I was kind of oblivious to a better way of cooking, there are so many other people that I still cooking the same way that I was. They have no inclination about a change because this is the only way they know. I felt that if we get these people together and show them that there is a different way of eating that's just as good tasting, then maybe we can save generations to come from so many health difficulties. You know, amongst most black people, there is diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack diseases and stuff, you know, heart diseases and stuff like that. And we just gotta live, we gotta do better because we know better now, you know, and if we know better, you do better, you know. And it could save generations of people to come to just be more educated coming out rather than waiting such a long time. Because if I had known now what I knew 20 years, you know, if I had known it 20 years ago, I probably would look like Britney Spears or somebody, really. I mean, because the way we do our bodies without no ending in sight, because we just don't know. We think, oh, yeah, well, this is healthy because we've been taught that it's healthy. Now, today in my life, I include a salad every day. And at least I can't drink 8 glasses of water, but I work my way up to 4. And I really feel good about myself When I urinate, it's no longer yellow, it's clear. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one.
It is really, and I did not know that your urine is not supposed to be yellow. I'm thinking, well, yellow is good. I did not know, but now it's clear, you know, and it doesn't even look like I urinated, and I like that feeling.
Good.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thanks,
Yeah.
Karen.
All right.
Share some really good sound bites. In the African American community in Minneapolis. So however you want to introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then you can say I participated in the Voice Project. We had a space where we shared stories amongst men. And then you can go into say, my story is, or something I'd like to share around food, culture, and size. Those are the three things: food, culture, and size.
Okay.
So whatever we talk about, it should be connected to food, culture, or size.
Okay.
What's your third one?
Size.
Oh, size.
Size, and from that we had themes, and from those themes, for the men, that came out most was about meal times, access to food, sources, the idea of home cooking. You had a really good story, Mr. Robinson, around the recipe book,
Yeah.
passing that down generationally.
Yeah.
And then, so those were the major things that came out. But you guys also had a lot of like political and kind of economic conversations around food. So
Okay.
I know you're not one to be limited on sharing.
That's okay. I can, like I said, you give me some parameters, I can walk with
So
that.
we'll start with
Okay.
the introduction.
All right.
And you're going to be talking to me.
Okay.
So talk to
Should
me.
I turn my chair like this? Is that better?
Good.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kwesi Nate Russell, and I was a participant in the Voice Project where we had discussions with men about, you know, culturals and size and other parameters in regard to healthy eating. For myself, my personal story is that I've been in recovery from drugs and alcohol for about 15 years. And a few years ago, my co-facilitator was working on his second or third chin. And I said to him, you know, we don't believe that food is as huge a threat to our health as drugs and alcohol were, food addictions, you know what I mean? And primarily was that when we didn't understand anything about nutrition or any reason for changing. Basically, all the thing we did, and the people that stayed sober and focused on staying sober, was that when we got a weight adjustment, we bought a larger t-shirt, 2X, 3X, 4X, or whatever, you know. And so I found a company that had a weight management program, and I was coming back from this conference, and I had my sister take some before pictures. I was deciding I was going to actually work on getting rid of my 9 months of pregnancy. And so I went through this 12-week program, and it taught me how to eat with the low glycemic index, which is, low glycemic is just a measurement of the impact that carbohydrates have on your blood sugar levels. But I had to learn a different way to eat because I used to be addicted to Famous Dave's. I used to be addicted to Big Daddy's. And I'm 2 years removed in July from having any more rib tips and those types of products and stuff. I'm almost 98% free of meat products. I still sample and things like that, but eventually I will eat an entirely different way. What happened is that the traditional soul food diet that I was raised on or reared on, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about that. The Africans that were enslaved and brought here came from an agrarian society. And a lot of the foodstuffs, there was 10 to 12, 15 varieties of vegetables that they ate in their communal meals. The meat was like a luxury or a byproduct. It wasn't meat-centric, it was more vegetable-centric. And we've lost that particular understanding of it. Today, I guarantee you, the average soul food diet will send you to heaven quicker than anything else will because of all the fats and all the starches and all of the sugars and the starches and things like that that make it taste good. But it doesn't assimilate the nutrients that your body needs from the food products that you put into your body. And so that's the thing that I want to share with people is that the real history behind what our meal plan was and how we get back to it. What happened to me when I started losing weight, I went over to a church for a meeting, and one of the sisters says, "Brother Kwesi, are you well? You've lost weight." I said, "Yes, I've lost weight," and I did it on purpose. But I stopped. I went from 195 to where I'm at 165 now. I stopped purposefully at 175 because in our community, people think if you lose weight, you got the AIDS or the cancer. You know what I mean? And I wanted to assure people, no, the malnutrition manifests itself in obesity. And there's a book by Dr. Jawanja Kunjufu, and he calls it Starving on a Full Stomach, where we go and get comatose at Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and all these traditional meals. The average American consumes over 150 pounds of sugar, and you don't understand how it happens, but it comes in small doses like Halloween and Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving, all these sugars. And I'm glad I saw a documentary on 60 Minutes because it finally told us what we needed to know. Now, this is a credible program with credible research that said sugar is poison. And I always told people that people that have or live with diabetes, sugar is like arsenic to a diabetic.
Okay. That's good. I'm not going to interrupt you, but as you go on and share your story, share it in pieces.
Okay.
So that you'll take a break. Like you might say 5 to 6 sentences, take a break.
Okay.
Then share the next part of that story.
Okay.
5 to 6 sentences, take a break.
Okay.
So do you have, are you going to, so.
Have we talked for 15 minutes already?
No.
Because I could have sworn we did. I could fill some time, but go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure that we get enough of your story
Oh,
in
and
a
a
way
bite.
that we can use it.
Oh, so you don't have to cut it, edit it out.
And it won't be too complicated.
Right.
When we go
Okay.
through and piece it together.
Okay. So now I'm a bachelor, and what happened for me was that I had to force myself to buy a couple of fruits or a fruit a day because I would go up to the corner store and I would buy a rotisserie chicken. I would buy some meatballs that were frozen. I'd buy some beans to go with that. I'd buy little go-wits and stuff, and you know, maybe something in the can. I was always eating stuff out of the can, out of a box, or something that was already prepared. And now I've gotten some training from one of the participants that was in our group setting. She's a raw food chef and activist, and she put that missing information that I needed. So I have a smoothie that just has all these nutrients in it, and I found that when your body gets the nutrients that it needs, then the cravings go away. So I've been able to continue to be on a learning curve. This is a great experience for me. A lot of people kind of say they wish they had learned this a long time ago, but I just want to let people know that whenever and wherever you start, the body can reverse all the damages that you've done to it, and so it can repair itself. That's the beauty of the body that I've learned. So I'm on a learning curve, and I just continue to meet people on my path that are providing me the information. I'm reading books all the time because the message I want to take to our community, especially men, if you lose 10 pounds, if you're morbidly obese, which means you're over 100 pounds over your body mass index, but if you suffer or live with diabetes from the obesity and you live with hypertension, 10 pounds can affect your blood pressure and your hypertensive state. Leaving the sodium and the sugar alone will do a lot of that also for you. And then this addiction to junk food and those empty calories that we consume, those are designed to trigger those. There's a potato chip that says, "Bet you can't eat one." Well, it was designed for that. And so an apple will keep your blood sugars from spiking. Once I started learning how to love fruits and vegetables from A to Z, I started experimenting on things that I had never eaten before. But I steam a lot more of my produce. I have salads and things of that nature. And when I eat out, there's never a problem because you can always ask them to have it gluten-free and vegan and you get rid of the glue. That's the root word of the gluten, you know what I mean? And a lot of times people will bring me information. So there's a book called Wheat Belly, and it talks about, you know, why a lot of people are having issues with losing weight, and it's because of that glue that's in that particular wheat. And then we've got these genetically modified organisms that are in the foods. We've got dyes, pesticides, steroids, hormones added to the food, ammonia to bleach the, you know, and kill the germs and stuff through the food manufacturing process. And so my next campaign is to get people to start eating more fresh fruits and vegetables and staying away from the things that are in a box, things that are in a can, things that are frozen. And I've noticed that a lot of our grocers, and juicing is very good for you. And the ultimate cure-all is fasting and learning how to fast. People say, I'm gonna die. But surely you will not die if you miss a meal. You miss 2 meals, you miss a day of meals and things of that nature. And once you learn how to do it properly, your body, your caveman mentality will not go into fat storage mode. So those are some of the things that I've learned to change, and I share with my brothers and sisters and my family.
Okay. This is an opportunity. We know you have so much knowledge. You're involved in so many things. You have so many personal accomplishments and stories you share with a lot of community. If this is going to be showed by people that are going to write the next policy that's going to be implemented in your neighborhood, or your community, or roll out the next program or initiative. What do you want them to know about food, size, culture related to the Black community? And say it in pieces.
Okay.
So we can use it.
For policymakers and other decision makers, we have to get out of bed with the agribusiness industry. We have to start changing the regulations that do not put profits over people. We have to look at the advertisements that our people are bombarded with. I did an ethnographic survey from Washington, on West Broadway, from West Broadway, Washington, all the way up to Colonel Sanders. There's over 16, 18 major or minor food chains, and all of them are selling processed foods. And then the reinforcement with the commercials, we ask ourselves, why are our people eating these types of foods? Well, nobody taught them how to eat a different way. The thing that the school system needs to look at doing is having nutritionists, not dietitians, because diets don't, D-I-E-T, diets don't work, but nutritionists and people that are not in the pockets of the processed food industry, so that our children, and the USDA policies need to change so that there are more fruits and fresh fruits and vegetables used with our tax dollars. Now, the Obama administration is getting it right now. They got the Let's Move routine. Dr. Ian Smith has the 50 million pound challenge to get rid of all the excess weight in our community. We need to have those things happening locally, and they need to be a part of the fabric of our community.
Okay. So if you had, this is the last soundbite, because I think we're running out of time, but I want you to make sure you say what you need to say. But the last piece is, you talked about a couple of big campaigns. You have your dream campaign for Minneapolis around food for communities of color to address this obesity epidemic. What would that campaign look like?
Well, I just want everybody to know y'all can steal this idea, because a lot of my ideas do get borrowed, but I want to be the 4-star general on the war of obesity and diabetes prevention in our community, in the entire community. The onset of this juvenile diabetes, we need to re-educate the parents, because the parents are the ones that influence the children. And so the war on diabetes it'll be huge. You know what I mean? It will save us a lot. They have a phrase that says, "Pay me now or pay me later." I would rather pay now, find some very competent people that know what they're talking about, that aren't degree-centric, that are health-centric, and work with us so that we can help shape a policy that would provide a nutrition plan in the school systems and for parents, so that within the next 5 to 10 years, this diabetes thing will actually go away for real. Not paying money for advertisement or newspaper ads. A newspaper ad or a flyer or brochure hasn't saved a person's life at all. But for us to work at the ground level where people are, and be able to go into the community at these areas where these processed foods are being sold, and offer people an opportunity to learn how to do something different. I think that's the way.
That's perfect. We needed to hear that one.
Okay.
That's good. Is there any other last compelling, you feel pressured you need to say?
Yes. Somebody tricked me when I was getting fat to say that young women like guys with big stomachs because that's a prosperity pouch. And now I'm on the process of losing my 9 months pregnancy, my 6 months pregnancy, to my 3 months pregnancy, and birthing this fat baby that I'm carrying around in me. But a lot of my brothers that are having these beer bellies flopped over their belt lines, that is the most unhealthy thing that they can practice, because it causes problems with your internal organs, your major organs, and all that fat is not good. So we need to find a way to get them to exercise more, cut back on the bad foods, and some good exercise program, supplementation. And you can do this at any age. Yoga's even good. Massage therapy, a whole lot of just treat your body better than you've been treating it before. So that's a personal thing that I have.
Perfect.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Quincy.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay.
Story, but then also if there's a piece towards the end where you have like a message that you want the community and stakeholders to hear, then you can communicate that too.
And you'll just be talking to Maria.
Oh, we're talking to Maria?
You don't need to look at
Oh, great. I like talking to Maria.
So, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is George Robinson, and I participated in the Voice Project. And it was really exciting because it gave us a forum and a place and a space to share our stories about food. And I got my wake-up call several years ago when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it really made me pay attention to food. One of the things I did in my research after I got over the fact that I had the big C, which is cancer, I decided to go visit my doctor, but not my doctor, other doctors, to get 3 different stories about how I should treat it. And one of the things I did in my research was travel to Asia to find out how other cultures are dealing with prostate cancer. And what I found out was that Asians do not get prostate cancer. They may get other things, but they do not get prostate cancer. However, they followed a family that actually moved to Seattle, and a few years after the family got Seattle, someone in that family, at least 2 people in that family, got prostate cancer. And so right away it said to me that prostate cancer is connected to diet. And I started to look at my diet at that point in time, and I got really serious about it. Although there's heredity involved in it and probably your own physiology, but your diet is important, and my diet was very poor. And so I had to take a real close look at that. And one of the things that I did was I looked at the diet that my mother provided for us, which I thought was extremely healthy. And we didn't know it. We were poor and we didn't know it. But we didn't eat a lot of red meat. We had a lot of fish. We had a lot of green vegetables. We even had a garden. And so I started to look back at that diet and to get my family, my wife, to start preparing food like my father did. And one of the ways that I did that is to go out and buy a blank diary and had my mother, before she passed away, to actually put some of her recipes in this blank book and then pass that down through my family. Now each of my daughters have a copy of that, and my wife continues to use that. And every meal, I don't care what meal it is, we have a salad is there. If sandwiches are involved, it's 1 piece of bread. So we look at what we eat very, very carefully. And my message is really this, and the wake-up call was prostate cancer. I am cancer-free now. I know it has a lot to do with my diet, and my real message is to go out and talk to African American men about prostate cancer. It's not only diet. A lot of it is not getting to know what you have at an earlier stage, and we don't spend a lot of time doing that. We don't go to the doctors. Anything that has to do with sexuality we seem to back away from. But we don't have to die of this. We have a death rate 4 times that of Anglos when it comes to prostate cancer. Everybody's going to get it eventually, but it doesn't have to kill you. If you get it quickly, it can be resolved. The other thing that I learned from that experience was you were always taught to do what the doctor says. And in my particular case, I actually turned my initial doctor into an enemy because he wanted me to treat the prostate cancer one way. And after my research, I decided that I want to treat it another way. Doing what the doctor says is fine, but when you have a condition like cancer, you need to take a look at your own research and find out what's best for you. That was something that was learned for me. The second thing was learned was the old things that you ate that you thought were soul food, your mom actually put something in there that was healthy. Whether it was cabbage or beets or radishes out of the garden, there was something healthy there. And there was a lot of fresh fish. The fish man came. So my message is you can have a good diet, you can prevent prostate cancer, and I think we should spend more time in our schools in putting physical education back in. The President's Physical Fitness Test should be back in, and teaching kids how to eat good things that taste good. That's kind of my message. And I think one of the ways that we can do this is I happen to serve on the board of my church, Park Avenue Youth and Family Services. And we have a church garden in which the young children go out and grow the food. They nourish the food. They see it grow and they learn to eat. And every week we have a farmer's market at the church. I think that if every church had a garden and actually served those fresh vegetables at the church, but also bring members of the community in so that they can take advantage of the vegetables that come out of that garden, we could change the whole way that we look at food in the African American and other minority communities. We don't do enough of that. And you can go into the corner store, but there's never fresh vegetables in that corner store. The community and the churches could help alleviate the lack of fresh vegetables. That's what we're missing. That's what we're missing.
Okay, if you could say a little bit, that was great. I think we got some really good pieces from there. The last thing I want you to talk about is the value of engagement and the value of people coming together and having a space to share knowledge, to share stories. And then I was trying to get, was it Tracy to say it? But the piece of, there's a South African church where they say there's, I don't know, it was Thornton, that nothing to us without us. So if you can talk about the value of coming together, sharing space, but then having people listen to this, our voice shape what policies, systems, environment, and programs are being developed to meet our needs. So we inform the solution. If you can talk a little bit about the value of having a space to share information, and then our voice should inform the solutions because we know our communities best.
It's extremely important that we have opportunities to share what our thoughts are about diet. And it needs to come from our community because we probably best communicate with our community. And there needs to be, one of the great things about the Voice Project was we had a group of African American men come together and we were able to share those stories. And I can share those stories with other African American men. I think that all of us, and I think that all the policy and whoever's responsible for this at a national and a local government level needs to continue to create open forums where people can share stories. I spent about 10 years in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and there's about 9 northern pueblos. And one of the ways that they share stories, and it's a symbol, if you come into my house, you'll see a whole area on the northern New Mexico. And one of the posters in my house that's framed up is the Storyteller Dial. The Storyteller Dial is an extreme example of how they share information. You have an elder tell stories to other people, and that's how traditions are passed down. We need to create something like that in the minority communities that would allow people to share stories. They may not remember everything, but if you put it in a story form and create an environment for a story, that stays with people all more than anything else. And it's important to know that we all have a role to play in sharing those stories and creating forums. But it needs to go up. There needs to be something, a forum and a community and a space sharing in your home. There needs to be something going on in church. There needs to be something going on in the schools. And the government needs to create a forum at the state level so that we can share those stories and pass them on. We can share them with our community, but they need to go in every community. And I think that's really what this is about. We need to create, I think education is probably one of the most important things in terms of creating a better diet. People just don't seem to know. They don't know that you should have one slice of bread. I don't think people know that you need to have various vegetables, that on your plate, make it as colorful as you possibly can. I don't think people know that we don't have to eat red meat. I eat very little red meat today, and when I eat it, because I seldom do, I get completely lethargic and can't sleep, and I stay awake. So we don't really need it, but we need forums to tell people, to let people know and to get that story out.
That's great. Perfect. And excellent. That's what I needed. That's the soundbite I've been trying to get all day. Stories.
I'll tell you, the power of stories. I mean, I speak for a living on a lot of different things, whether it be diversity, communication.
All right, so if you just want to explain kind of what's going on here, what you guys do, what goes
Okay.
on in here, and then talk a little bit about the healthy food as well.
Sure.
What you guys serve and that kind of would be great.
Okay. Once again, my name is Karen Willens, and I'm here at the Center for Changing Lives Cafe's kitchen. And what we do here is every Thursday, we serve a community meal to anyone that wants to come and eat from 12 to 1 o'clock. And actually how this is done is the meal is prepared between the night before and then all this morning. And we try to serve healthy meals that just involve broiling, baking, stir frying. Nothing here is deep fried or there isn't a lot of fat, a lot of butter here used. So what we're going after is just the healthy expectation of it all, try to feed the people healthier. We also have some other programs that goes on during the week that we also serve healthy meals. On Tuesday we serve the Bible study group, which food that we choose from Second Harvest, and is basically fruits and vegetables and meats for the protein of it. And they're just some real good meals. We have different people here helping us cook this meal, ranging from every culture, Somalians, Puerto Ricans, whatever, you know, we're just serving everybody here and trying to give everyone a healthy outlook on foods that they should be eating. Over here, you'll see that this is the window where we serve from. We serve anywhere from 150 to 200 people every Thursday. Like I said, totally free. And we know it's working because the people keep coming back. And we're really proud to be able to do that. We're one of the only food pantries that serve during the week as well. You know, we also have a food pantry on the second Friday and the fourth Saturday of every month, where we also serve people free food, free healthy foods, and plus give them a bag of grocery to take home. One of those bags of groceries that they take home is fruits and vegetables, breads, grains, and stuff like that, you know, that they can feed their family very healthy. So that's what we do here.
That's perfect.
All right.
Jenny, beautiful.
Thank you so much. All right.
Get some food. You guys just kind of doing your thing.
Sure. Well, as you can see, the dishwasher's over there doing his thing. And say, for instance, if we was going to serve a plate of food, of course, healthiness and cleanliness is one of the things we do here. So we always wear gloves. And how this works is we just come right over here where all the food is prepared. And we also have a meal for vegans, you know, people that don't eat meat. We also have meals for them. So basically what we do is come over and get a tray. And today, what we're serving is mashed potatoes and beef tenderloin, and also vegetables.
Putting those vegetables on with that.
Sure. Let me just get a whole nother tray then. We use vegetables. And the people really enjoy fresh vegetables. And this is like one of the meals will look like. We take it and serve it to. I'm sorry? We're just interviewing. So this is what it looks like. Could you just take this anyway? Sure. Thank you so much. All right, that's what we do here. Oh, I forgot to give her bread. You forgot? Well, she left. And that's what we do here. Some of the seasonings we cook with. All right.
Thank you so much, Karen. Do you want to give your microphone to Colleen?
Sure. Thank you so much.
Can you just take this anyway?
Yeah, take it. Make it look real over here, girl.
I don't want it though.
She took it though, which was a good thing. Come off. I think your microphone lights me. Uh-oh. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for crashing your work.
It's okay. But if you really want to do me a favor, hit him in his ass.
No. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you all.
All right, Karen. You're going to be a superstar.
I hope so, with your help. Oh, this is what he's here for.
So how many people were in the group? Each group had anywhere between 20 and 25 people. Wow. That was fun.
Oh, sorry.
It was so funny. I was just like, can you just take this tray anyway?
I'm like, okay, that's a perfect interview. I got what I have. I'm just gonna get into this, and she just kept talking. And she was like, this is happening. I'm not even looking at you. Oh, cracks me up.